Hello everyone, my name is Russell Wright from CurationProfits.com, and I would like to review a question that's recently hit the curation area of Quora.com, which is, what do you find to be the biggest misconception regarding content curation? I'd like to say that it's probably the lack of improved context, lack of added value, or lack of expanded meaning on the part of the would-be curator. Now we're going to get in a little bit more about what this is, but first of all, I'd like to say that the best book to read on this topic is probably Curation Nation by Stephen Rosenbaum. He's the founder of CEO of Magnify.net, and his book really did kick off the kind of popularization of content curation for the general masses. And with it, I think, came a lot of misconceptions, or at least a lot of confusion between curation and content marketing. There's definitely a relationship, but most of the time that relationship is misunderstood because nobody really knows exactly how to deal with the concept of context. And many people, when they even read Curation Nation, they miss that the actual name of the book is Why the Future of Content is Context. Now, my area of expertise and passion, one of my areas of expertise and passion is something called contextual persuasion. My background is in the neurosciences and specifically neuromarketing and how the brain works in social engineering. Of course, I am also the creator of a technology called ThemeZoom, which uses natural language processing and other contextual associations to determine the meaning of an overall web page. So I'm steeped both in the digital as well as the psychological and neurological aspects of meaning making when it comes to human beings. Now, I come from a very specific perspective, which is that the web is a combination of digital technology combined with human interface. The opposing book, I'd say the opposite end of the spectrum in the area of the topic of content curation, is a book by Andrew Keen called The Cult of the Amateur, and he takes the opposite end of the spectrum. If Curation Nation is curation positive, I would say that The Cult of the Amateur would probably be considered curation and at least blogging negative. What Andrew really says is that there's a problem with meritocracy in that we don't know, because there's so many people blogging and putting their opinion and everybody can get a soapbox to stand on, so to speak, that you basically have no way to know how much of a subject matter expert that person is on the topic of content curation or anything else, or of any topic. You don't know what the merit, the schooling, the education, how much research, how much cross-association, how much intelligence somebody has around a topic, because they're just weighing in on a blog and anybody can say anything. And he's also saying that curation just makes all that much worse. So in essence, he's saying that any monkey can blog and there's no merit in that. I can definitely understand what he's saying. I hold a little bit of a different perspective in that as a technologist, I believe I know more than Andrew Keen, about where the web is going. And he probably knows this, but I'd like to, weigh in and say that what's happening is that we're moving towards the real-time web. And there are many different definitions of the word curation. So I'm going to take those two thoughts. We're moving towards the real-time web, and there are many different definitions of curation, and we're going to focus in on those two contrasting ideas, okay? So if the blog platform, which any monkey can have, is kind of a soapbox that anyone can stand on, they don't have to have a degree or a badge, and frankly, clout's not going to cut it, because we've done a lot of research in our own organization with clout. It's incredibly easy to gain clout. We're a long way away from having a true digital badge or a meritocratic environment where somebody can really be who they are. Although Google is moving towards rewarding authors with books and author markup tags and many, many other things to help the social and authority-driven environment, to add that authority-driven environment or meritocratic environment to the search engines and to the real-time web. What I'm really getting at here is that the real-time web is calling and talking to each other without even using a search engine. Skype is an example of the real-time web. Video that's real, like video and video, or shared video, for example, where Skype now allows you to look at each other. A lot of the times, the web now is becoming more a part of the telecommunications industry than we had once hoped. And also, Chris Anderson wrote the Wired magazine issue, "The Web is Dead," and so on and so forth. What he's really saying is that we're moving towards the internet, or the real-time web, what I consider the real-time environment, where things are happening right now. Okay, now that's a movement towards meritocratic environment, towards a subject matter expert, not away, because in some ways we're just moving back to the way things were. Okay, now what I mean by that, by the way things were, is that in the old telecommunications environment, you just had real people who had to present themselves in the same way that persuasion and social engineering is generally accentuated by people influencing people in a tribal environment, the real world, the offline, the non-digital world. So will be this upcoming web, this Web 3.0, and this real world environment where the real-time traffic web, the real-time telecommunications web, where Skype and video and mobile and all these applications are all happening right now. You're checking on your cell phone right now to determine if this restaurant in your local area has good reviews on it. In fact, in the future, you might be able to call your friend up, and you can do that right now. Just connect with your friend immediately to find it and interact without review before you even make a decision. That's the real-time web. I also wanted to add, as I was saying before, curation. There are many different kinds of curation. That's the second part of this topic. Take TED, for example. Chris Anderson is the curator of TED. If you go to the TED blog, it even says Chris Anderson, curator. They formally acknowledge him as the curator because TED was his baby. He started it, and he views himself as a curator. So curation and curator is not some kind of made-up topic that everybody and their brother can do. You have to have skills and qualities to be able to do it. And Chris gets to choose the merit in his own little meritocracy of how these subjects are chosen and how the subject matter experts are invited to TED. And then, of course, that makes curation not a digital environment. So curation is not limited to a digital environment. It's actually offline in a conference type environment. And of course, then there's video curation, because the videos are then created in a massive video studio with the people, the camera crew and the post-edit and all the things that you need to do to produce a major film. And then they're sliced up and diced and sent throughout all the networks and then given to the world for free, funded by the corporate funding and monetization. And that's another topic you need to learn about when it comes to curation, is how are you getting paid as a content curator? There's many content marketers out there like Jack Humphreys and the rest who are studying content curation along with my team, because we've been in the content business for years, content marketing business for years in the internet marketing world, and we know that persuasion is contextual. And so that's what I'm really saying, is that curators need to be really honest about what they're doing, in that they're creating new context and they're supposed to add meaning. Okay, expose the gray areas by creating the extremes and help the reader find new meaning with those new associations. For example, in this video, in the slideshow, I've done that in a very simple way. I've used two other people's work. This is Stephen Rosenbaum and Andrew Keen. And because they actually offer such extreme perspectives that are different from each other, in fact, Stephen Rosenbaum actually covered Andrew Keen's work because Andrew is a bit of a nemesis to some of the ideas, the curation positive ideas that Stephen actually had. It's a great contrast builder. One of the things that curators have a hard time with, and in my opinion, I think Jack Humphreys and others would agree, is because they've never been salesmen, and as a result, you'll find a lot of curators who are really trained and highly educated in sequential logic, and they forget a lot of the emotional logic that great salesmen, great copywriters, and great content marketers have known for the last 20 years. That context is persuasion, whether you want it to be or not, whether you're intending it to be or not. So one of the best things that a great curator can do is provide a new context by offering extremes. It can be extreme works, it can be extreme ideas, but not necessarily. You just zoom into the gray area in an idea or a topic. And you don't even have to be a subject matter expert to do that. Just present old ideas in a new way and offer some kind of insight. Okay, and oftentimes that insight will be an opinion, but if you're an expert and you've included enough ideas and angles in, you should be able to provide an insight or an overview or a graphic or a potential meaning to help your users not only organize information, because the issue is not just about organizing information, it's really about helping people understand what they should do about it. In other words, there's no such thing as information overload. There's really only such a thing as potential meaning overload. And that's the job of the curator, is to expose the gray area. And I feel like most curators are simply scooping ideas and sticking them in a box and putting that stuff all together and really offering very little insight, but gaining the traffic or the context or the cool idea, and from a magazine or whatever, but not really clearly offering a new kind of meaning. Exposing the gray area is my free tip in this video of how a curator, and there's many ways that we teach, can implement what we call premium content curation as a subject matter expert to bring in new ideas and offer context or the meaning in the two contrasting ideas. And you can do this with more than just two ideas. You can do this with multiple ideas as well. Hopefully this little tiny sneak peek has been helpful for you. My name is Russell Wright from curationprofits.com. I look forward to seeing you on the inside.